Well, good morning. Good morning. It's Thursday. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and say hashtag replay. I want to talk about something this morning that is actually fairly new on my radar. I thought of a verse the other day and my head has just kind of been spinning since. So here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to jump on me. You're not going to attack me. Okay, because that's of the devil. But let's have a dialogue. Let's ask some questions. Let me approach what came to me and let's pray into it because I don't know, I'm kind of spinning on this. So we obviously are very aware. I mean, you would have to be living under a rock not to be aware of all the turmoil, right? And so this verse came to my mind, and there's a couple of them. One is in Matthew. I'm going to read the one out of Mark. Mark 13, I'm going to start in verse 7. So it says right here that, I can't even find verse 7. I can find verse 6 and verse 8. Why can't I find 7? All right. You will hear rumors of wars nearby with more rumors of wars to come. Make sure that you are not thrown into a panic or given into your fears, for these things are destined to happen. Prepare for it, but still the end is not yet. Now hold on, I'm not going to stay here. But let me just say to any believer, y'all, I hope you have rolled up your rapture rug. Because if you are just sitting there waiting for Jesus to come back, you are wasting precious moments. Okay, there are souls to be saved and there is an agenda at hand, which is kind of what I'm going to dig into. Here we go. For nations will go to war against each other and kingdoms, oh, listen to this, kingdoms will clash with kingdoms. I'm going to get on that in a minute, but I want to finish reading this real fast. And there will be terrible earthquakes in place after place, seismic events of epic proportion. Good morning, Tamara. And there will be famines and riots. This is how the first contractions and birth pains of the new age will begin. All right. I want to go back to a certain phrase I just read, and I want to tell you what has been spinning in my mind for a few days now. Kingdoms, well, here we are. Oh, I went way too far. My bad. Sorry. For kingdoms will clash with kingdoms. Nations will go to war against each other, and kingdoms will clash with kingdoms. I'm not claiming this is a word. I'm claiming this is something that Amber is digesting. So open a dialogue with me. Let's ask some questions, okay? If you start attacking me, that's of the devil. All right. And I'm not saying I don't need to be corrected, right? But if you don't have an active part in my life, then your job is to actually intercede that somebody who is mentoring me and speaking into my life will call me up and correct me. Okay. This whole keyboard warrior is not, it's just not of God. Kingdoms will clash against kingdoms. See, I refuse to call what's happening hurricanes. You might think that's dumb. But I actually refer to them as their names. You want to know why? Because when you say that a hurricane wiped out the Carolinas and a hurricane took out Tennessee, you know who gets blamed for that? God. You know who shouldn't be blamed for that? God. Let me tell you why. When he created the earth and everything here, he called it good. He is not about destruction. He has no interest in watching lives be lost, property be damaged. It grieves him. So why is it happening? Well, I'm going to bring up two reasons. One, guess who does have dominion? You and I. Guess who has given over our dominion? You and I. Who has taken dominion because we, as believers of the one true living God, who do not know our authority, go ahead, it's true. Believers don't know their authority because if they did, they would stand against the agenda of the darkness, the kingdom of darkness. You see, kingdoms are clashing right now. The kingdom of the one true living God is that we would live life in abundance, not have destruction, not have our property destroyed, not have lives lost. But why is it happening? Twofold. One, believers do not know their authority. Believers are not standing in their authority to push back the kingdom of darkness. Well, Amber, you can't sit there and claim that Helene was the kingdom of darkness. Oh, really? Oh, really? Because the enemy is not a creator. The enemy is a copier. The enemy knows how to take what God has created and use it for forces that are far too great to wreak havoc. The enemy has an agenda. The enemy is using pawns, that's people, to wreak havoc and destruction. So I like to call her what she is, Helene. I don't call her a hurricane. Because if you talk to anybody in the Carolinas, ain't nobody been taken out by no hurricane. And let me just pause here. The Eyes Open podcast, while you may not agree with everything we say there, I would encourage you to listen. I would encourage you to ponder, because I fully believe that when you and I have our eyes open to the things that are happening right here, right now, you and I can pray and speak out against, in the mighty name of Jesus, the agenda of the enemy, and we can put his plans kiboshed. And I actually think that is just what happened. Now, let's talk about Milton for a minute. So we got wind of Milton. And I don't know about your Facebook feed, but I have been watching the people pray. I have been watching the people decree and declare over Milton. Why am I not calling him a hurricane? Because when you call it a hurricane, God gets blamed. And listen, God is not about destruction. God is not about destroying. Okay, so Milton. You watch all the pray, the interceding happen, the decreeing, the declaring, all the things. And he was not as powerful as he wanted to be. But look what else happened. We catch wind of Milton coming on through, and instead of a hurricane, we see tornadoes in mass quantities that have never happened before happen. What? Friends, Wyoming is on fire. My husband was talking to my mother-in-law a couple days ago, and she's like, listen, I've lived in Washington State, Oregon, my whole life. Never has it been on fire. Never have we been taken out by these massive fires. But yeah, we get smoked out every year now. Again, kingdoms will clash against kingdoms. You see, the kingdom of darkness has an agenda to wreak havoc. The kingdom of darkness wants to destroy, tear down, wants a massive loss of life. But the kingdom of the one true living God is asking you, believer, will you seek my face first thing in the morning? Will you get a word from heaven? Will you receive fresh manna every day? Will you recognize my agenda? Have your eyes wide open to the kingdom of darkness's agenda? Will you choose a side this day? Will you align yourself with what I want to do on the earth? And will you push back the kingdom of darkness? Listen, I'm so on fire right now in my spirit, because this verse is taking on a whole new meaning. And again, I started off this live. Listen, I have not studied it in depth, okay? I am just merely processing aloud with you what is sparking off in my spirit. Might we dialogue about this? Might we ask questions about this? Might we open our eyes a little wider to the fact that, like, you and I don't actually have to be tossed to and fro. You and I shouldn't. We should be standing so solid and secure on who he is and his agenda of life and life abundant, so that we can bring that forth into our home, into our city, into our region, into our states? Can we trust him in the end days for Goshen cities, where he has prepped the people to plan and prepare, where he has given his people divine strategies so that we don't seek a famine? Let me just speak to famine for a minute. Ooh, listen, I better get on off here. I've got things to do and an office to occupy. Famine. When he created the entire world, did you know he created everything we would need? Not only Adam and Eve, but every resource needed until he returns. Famine is not of him. There is enough food and resources to go around for every single person on this earth today and that will be born. He created plenty. Do you hear me? Plenty. Famine is not of him. Famine is the kingdom of darkness. Famine is greed because Satan used his little pawn. Famine is an agenda because, again, the enemy, I pointed above, his enemy is looking for any avenue to wreak havoc on the one thing that God cares about most, and that is you. Humans. Friends, he created you and I. He created the human race knowing that we would sin against him. And even though he knew that was going to happen, he still decided before he ever created us to, one, still go forward and create us, and two, to have a plan in place that would reunite us. Because he is a God of love and love must love. And so he created a human race and gave them, I'm leaving you with this. I do not even want to get up off here. I could go on for literally 20 minutes more. He created you. Oh my goodness. He looks at you and he delights in you. But then he gives you a choice and says, insert your name. Will you choose me or deny me? Because if you don't choose me, then it doesn't bring me pleasure because you're not a robot. You're not a robot. If you have the choice, choose me and let me love you, or deny me and I'll allow you to. And so here we stand in a day, in an hour that feels tumultuous, but I am telling you, it's just kingdoms clashing against kingdoms. It's because he wants his people to recognize who we are in him, our authority in him, and he wants to watch his church rise because he has given you and I everything we need to dominate the day, the hour. We do not know when he is going to return, but listen to me. In these desperate times, people are more desperate. And what happens when people are more desperate? They are more likely to turn to him, ask questions of him. Is there a God? Is there a God that exists? Is there a God that loves me? You and I better rise up, not only taking our authority, but saving souls in the meantime. Oh my goodness, I want to take so many souls with me. So listen, 2 plugs. 1, listen to the Eyes Open podcast. May it get your brain, your wheels spinning. Listen, take it to your prayer closet. I'm not saying you have to believe every word we say. We have got to be aware of the enemy's agenda and his tactics in this day. We have got to be aware. And then 2, I'm about to go in there. I'm about to launch Kaneo Ministry Training campuses all across this nation and, God willing, the world. And my hope is that believers will get in their word. They will recognize the blood covenant that they have access to and the power and authority that they can walk in. Because when we grasp that as believers, we are going to turn this world upside down for him. And it is going to be a ride, y'all. Listen, there is nothing more exciting than aligning with what he's doing and giving your life to it. His will, his way, my yes. What about you?